My name is Karina Gould. I'm the Member of Parliament for Burlington, and I'm the Minister for Families, Children and Social Development. It is such a pleasure to be here with you this morning, and it's wonderful to welcome those of you from out of town to Burlington. And I'm really delighted, of course, to welcome my dear friend and colleague, Minister François-Philippe Champagne. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we are gathered is part of the treaty lands and territory of the to be here for today's announcement. One of the things that really impressed me when I was first elected in 2015 was the hub of activity around the nuclear energy in this region of Southern Ontario. We actually have a real gem here in Burlington and the surrounding area of the knowledge, the expertise around CANDU technology, and it's really a pride and joy and something that I think we need to talk about more and to really celebrate, because there are a lot of opportunities when it comes to nuclear energy. And today's announcement certainly forms part of that. And I won't scoop the Minister on that. But it also is really important when it comes to meeting our country's climate targets and our expectations for reaching net zero by 2050 and our emissions reductions by 2030. And today's announcement certainly fits within this. And one of the things that I was reflecting on as we were going through the tour, and it's because Minister Champagne, as you'll notice, is very shy and doesn't say very much and definitely doesn't engage with people. And so you'll see that he kept saying to everyone, you must be really proud of what you're doing. And I think he's absolutely right, because what you're working on is about the energy system of the future. And I think that's really exciting and meeting many of the needs and the goals that we have here in Canada, but also right around the world. And so it gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague. I also want to mention that I'm joined by my colleagues, Member of Parliament for Oakville North Burlington. This is actually her riding, Pam Damoff, as well as the Member of Parliament for Milton, Adam Van Couverden. Unfortunately, the Member of Parliament for Oakville is otherwise engaged because she's the Minister of Defence, and so she's currently busy with some quite pressing issues at the moment. But we have a very strong team here in Halton, and we work really closely together, and we're really glad to be supporting our industry partners here locally. And so without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce François-Philippe Champagne. I was joking earlier because obviously you got to know him a little bit, and he is full of energy, but he's also a tremendous Minister for Innovation, Science and Economic Development. And one of the things that I love about François-Philippe, if I can say this, is that he's always thinking about how he can make connections, and he's always thinking about what he can do and what our government can do to support our incredible industry and industries here in Canada. And so we're lucky to have him in this role, and I'm sure you will feel the same way now that you've gotten to know him, but also after he speaks. So François-Philippe, merci beaucoup pour être ici, et à vous. Merci.
Good morning, everyone. I was so excited, Minister Gould, your nice words, and I feel we're writing history together. So obviously I'm proud. I'm proud of everyone I've met this morning. It's a great morning when you think about history and you're looking at what we're doing and the young people we've met this morning. It's just amazing. And you're right, we're surrounded by many friends. I mean, I look at the people here, many of whom I've had the privilege of traveling when we were both on the international portfolio for our government, and many friends, and now we're all gathered together, former ambassador, colleagues who have been with us around the world, and so many young people we met. So, bonjour tout le monde. It's obviously a great pleasure. You know, Minister Gould, Minister of Families, Children, Social Development. It's great to be in your neck of the wood, I must say, and to be here in Halton and Burlington. It's just exciting to be able to share this great news together. I want to say the same thing to Pam Damoff. Pam is a tireless advocate, I must say, Parliamentary Secretary for Public Safety, which is, you know, I'm not here by coincidence. If you want to know why I'm here today, look at these three people. And I can think of Adam, which is also Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health and Sports. So I can tell you, for all of you here in the region, that you have three amazing stars and strong voice for the regions. And I can tell you, when they speak, Ottawa listens. And I'm a good example of that this morning, because they made sure that we would be here to celebrate that together, because there's something special in the region that we need to celebrate. And for me, being in this environment, you know, for someone who loves factory, there's no better place. You don't need to convince me a lot, Eddie, to come in a factory floor. Trust me, I love that, because this is the environment where we build things, where we can be ambitious, where we can seize the moment, where we see young people. And I met your future boss, which is around one of the speakers this morning. I love the way you introduced, because the people we've met this morning are really the future. So I want to especially thank the workers and all the people we've met this morning, because it's really thanks to your know-how, your expertise, your excellence that we can be here this morning. And I'd like to applaud you, because honestly, you are an inspiring set of people. I had the privilege of meeting you this morning in business development. We had the privilege of talking about testing. We had the privilege of meeting those who were doing some of the CAT and making the plans. And I was, as Minister Gould was saying, you must be proud. I mean, imagine you go home and you say, I'm working on nuclear energy. I'm working on providing the green technology that we'll need in the future in many communities around Canada. And I could feel in their eyes, and I would say, Eddie, you know, it's great part to the culture you've built here in Westinghouse. And I want to thank the colleague also who came from the United States. I mean, it's great that you could come from North Carolina to be with us. And it just shows how important what you're doing here today, that we have not only the senior management of Westinghouse, but we have the future of Westinghouse and our colleagues from the United States. And obviously, from someone like me who's a different portfolio, you know, it's great for us to innovate together with the United States, to build things together with the United States, and to sell together to the rest of the world. And when you think about energy security at a time where, as Minister Gould said, our colleague, Minister Anand, Minister of Defense, is very busy, and everyone has seen the tragedy, the human tragedy, unbelievable tragedy we've seen in Ukraine, days and days out, energy security and thinking how we could build our supply chain to make sure we're more resilient takes obviously front of mind. So I think many of you have seen that over the last 2 years at least, we've been presented with two existential challenges. I mean, one is COVID-19, and I think that science, technology, and innovation has demonstrated already that we can find breakthrough solutions for humanity. We've seen it with a COVID vaccine, and we've been able, with my colleagues, to make sure, and with our government and the Prime Minister, to ensure the health and safety of Canadians. But if I look beyond that, there's another big existential threat to our nation and to humanity, which is climate change. And there again, I think science, technology, and innovation will provide the breakthrough solution. And why I'm so happy to be with you and so many distinguished guests which are with us is that we realize that what we're talking about here this morning has the potential to be one of these breakthrough solutions that the world is needing, not only for Canada in remote locations as we're trying to green supply chain, but I think to the world, and that's really where Canada can play a place. And you have seen that not only we want to ensure a greener future to our children, but my ambition as Minister of Industry is that we lead in the green industrial transformation, not only here in Canada, but around the world. And with technologies like the one we're doing here, we have the potential to do that. And everyone knows, and I was reminded with Mr. Gould, the CANDU reactor. I used to go in Korea and South Korea in my previous life before politics, and Canada was known for the CANDU reactor. So we have that reputation of reliability, of quality, of responsible use of nuclear energy. And I know we were together in Paris to celebrate that. So it's great to be here. And this is why I'm happy to be here at Westinghouse. We are supporting sustainable, zero-emission projects that meet both the environmental challenges that we face, but also the economic goals of Canada. And one area that I've said which holds great promises, I think, is nuclear power. And especially when I see the small modular reactor that we're seeing this morning is really breakthrough technology. In fact, and I'll give you 4 things that will make you see why Canada is such in a good position to lead. If you go back in time, close to 80 years ago, Canada became the second country ever to produce nuclear power. And that really struck me that there's not that many things that we can say as Canada have the badge of honor that we were the second in the world, but in fact, we were the second to produce nuclear power. So this began a lasting legacy of excellence in our country that we can build upon. And what I'm so inspired, and I want to thank the management team and Peter, who was so proud to introduce us the next generation of people who are going to continue that great tradition, because everything we do is about talent, and it's about the people. We all know that building a factory is somewhat easy these days, but to get the talent, to get the people, to get them interested in nuclear technology in the future is quite something. The second thing I would say from our capabilities have come from mining uranium to R&D at Chalk River and Pointe-le-Pro, to building reactors and to managing waste and more. Canada is a world leader in nuclear technology, and Pam has often talked about the isotopes, which I'll talk in a moment. But we have a lot of experience in nuclear technology, so when I think about what we can do in our country but beyond, we are really credible around the world. And we have been known, and I mentioned that before, for the export of CANDU reactor. Those of us who are a bit older would remember that CANDU was really something that people look, and the radioisotopes, which have been used for cancer therapy. And I know Pam and the colleagues have talked about a project in the region. And finally, did you know, and I learned that when I was reading for this event this morning, that more than a quarter of our Nobel Prizes in Canada are related to nuclear science. So not only we have the experience of the CANDU, the isotopes, but we have the brain power that is needed to bring this new energy and these new solutions to the market. So if we look to achieve the net zero emission by 2050, which is the goal that we have set for ourselves, we see that small modular reactors, as we call them SMRs in the jargon of the industry, will play an important role as we transition to a greener future. SMR will help us to move away from coal and fossil fuel energy. In fact, they can help electrify carbon-intensive industry, such as mining and heavy industries. And I was mentioning to colleagues before we started, as we see many sectors of the economy, people are thinking almost from the mine to the product and how you green the supply chain. Well, obviously, when you think about SMRs and where the resources are located in our country, you start seeing opportunities. And I want to salute our friend from Saskatchewan. We came here because I think we'll have a pilot soon, and I'm excited, and I'd like to go see it with you, because that's where you connect the dot, and you see what we're doing here in Burlington is going to connect for everything that we're going to do around the world. C'est pour ça qu'on a lancé un plan d'action, vous l'avez vu en 2020, sur les petits réacteurs modulaires, pour assurer que le moment venu, on puisse demeurer un chef de file dans ce secteur. And colleagues, you probably have seen for 70 years, that's quite something, Westinghouse has been a well-known leader in nuclear technology, which brings me to the announcement today. And sorry if I took a bit more time, but it's the passion. You can remove that. You know, when you're here on the factory floor with great people and a great team that looks at the future, you can only be inspired, and the words come easily when you're so inspired. So I'm really delighted to announce, and I want to give the credit to Minister Gould, to Pam Damoff, to Adam, to Minister Annan, who was with us. Brian May wanted to be with us. It's really us together that allows us today to say that we are going to be investing more than $27 million to support Westinghouse to advance their eVinci SMR technology in Canada. And for those who are expert, but those watching at home, the eVinci is basically a nuclear reactor that you put in a container. So if you think about transportability, if you think about, in a way, plug and play, that it's easy to use and it's safe to use and it's reliable and responsible, that looks like the technology of the future. So it's obviously good news for the 200 workers of Westinghouse. It's certainly good news for Burlington and the Alton region. And I would think it's really good news for all these remote communities in Canada who are looking to move out of diesel to a secure and, I would say, a responsible energy as we look forward in our country. And that's very welcome news, I would think, as we are looking, and we've been looking at removing a number of communities from diesel. And we know that some of you mentioned it's going to be complementary. For me, it's like a big nuclear battery that you have for baseload energy. And then you can have other forms of energy. But in the energy mix, that makes sense. So not only Westinghouse is doing that, but I'm very happy that Westinghouse is going to be investing $60 million in research and development. And that is probably, for me, as important as the grant this morning, because we're going to be building here the next technology. Now, colleagues are looking at me and they say, Minister, we know you're passionate, but you have to end. So I will say that I wish you at Westinghouse all the best as you're trying to help us to strengthen our SMR technology. I think we can look at a brighter, a greener, and cleaner future together. So I would say to all the young people in the room, particularly to all of you, let's seize the moment. Let's be ambitious as we can be as Canadians, and let's be part of the green transition. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be my pleasure to invite Eddie Saab, who is the president of Westinghouse Canada, to address you. Merci tout le monde.
What a great day. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Minister Champagne, Minister Gould, as President of Westinghouse Canada, let me welcome you to Burlington and to the Westinghouse offices here. And thank you so much for being here for the special announcement and for the investment. I'd like to take a chance to also think of a couple other people. First, your team at at Innovation, Industry, and Science for their collaboration, cooperation in making today's event so successful. I'd also like to do a special thanks to the Strategic Innovation Fund team, for whom we've worked so closely in collaborating and finalizing the details for this contribution agreement together. Following my remarks, I'm going to have David Durham, President of Energy Systems for Westinghouse Canada, say a couple words. Afterwards, Fabrizio Pinheiro, our Vice President of Business Development, will speak. And then Michael Valor will share a couple of the key attributes of the Vinci technology together. But before we get into some of the details I want to share, I also want to recognize a lot of the special guests we have in the audience today. Pam Damoff, Member of Parliament for Oakville and North Burlington. Adam Van Couverden, Member of Parliament for Milton. Richard Horben, Bruce Power's Vice President of Business Development and Innovation. Michael Crabtree, CEO and President of Saskatchewan Research Council. John Gorman, President and CEO of Canadian Nuclear Association. Fred DeMarker, President and CEO of Atomic Energy of Canada Limited. Ron Oberth, President and CEO of Organization of Canadian Nuclear Industries. Justin Hanna, Senior Director at Energy for Natural Resources Canada. I also want to welcome and thank Michael Shacko, our Senior Vice President of Advanced Reactors, for being here today and for really being the spearhead to make all this happen. I do want to say a quick word of thanks to John Barrett. John Barrett's been with me from the start of this journey. John, thanks for your support, thanks for your guidance, and thanks for helping us get to where we are today. I know this is just the start of it. Since those early days a couple of years ago, Westinghouse has grown to become a leader in the Canadian nuclear industry, providing advanced engineering, advanced manufacturing. Our aim is to continue this growth and expansion. Back then, we were just a handful of people. Today, we have over 200 incredible talents, and we want to grow further. We are providing operation support, solving problems by bringing Westinghouse's capabilities, capacity, and innovation to the Canadian nuclear marketplace. I have a vision that I hold strongly. It's to be best in class when it comes to quality, to service, and innovation in our industry. But today I want to talk about a different vision, one that goes beyond the power generation industry to embrace Canada as a whole. It's a pan-Canadian vision that sees Vinci bring social, economic, and environmental benefits to Canadians across all provinces and territories. And here we have to thank Minister Champagne again and the Government of Canada for the confidence you have shown in Vinci and Westinghouse Canada, and for the very significant investment you are making in our success today. Westinghouse is honored to receive the contribution agreement from the Strategic Innovation Fund for $27 million. Westinghouse will match this amount, and we will further provide economic development through all our offices across Canada. We believe that the Vinci micro-reactor, essentially a small battery like the Minister had mentioned, exemplifies the attributes of the Strategic Innovation Fund. It is strategic, it is innovative, and it is going to change the world. The revolutionary heat pipe technology, the small size, the transportability, a high technology readiness level, these are what make Vinci the right fit for Canada. And what do I mean about the right fit for Canada? It means Vinci is a solution provider. It is an enabler for Canada's energy, climate action, and for emission reduction needs to get us to net zero 2050. Today, we're taking a big step to go from vision to reality. The Strategic Innovation Fund from Canada puts Canada at the forefront of a new wave of energy transition programs to provide clean electricity and heat and enable economic and development and job creation for Canada. In remote communities, Star for Energy, looking to end their dependence on transported diesel. At mining sites, wanting to reduce their carbon emissions, but with a reliable 24/7 power source. For industrial users of high-temperature heat who are looking for clean alternatives instead of fossil fuels. For Indigenous communities who are looking to use fuel and energy as a fundamental to the economic and social betterment, and rightly so, to be a part of the project management and project ownership of these programs. And at universities, where the eVinci as a research reactor can help inspire a new generation of students wishing to jump on board on the clean energy program for Canada. Moreover, the vision shared by all of us on the Westinghouse eVinci team is truly pan-Canadian. We are taking eVinci anywhere, regions, jurisdictions that want to see the benefits and benefit from the benefits of eVinci. In fact, the eVinci team itself is pan-Canadian, with a consortium of stakeholders coming from different regions and different sectors with different perspectives and different needs. So when you hear us talk about eVinci as pan-Canadian, we truly mean it. The program is already gaining interest from coast to coast. One day soon, we hope to export this technology internationally, and maybe even one day to space. Before I hand over to David Durham, let me conclude again by stating our appreciation to Minister Champagne and the Government of Canada for this investment, for this vote of confidence in eVinci, and for Westinghouse Canada. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. I'm going to try to avoid repeating much of what Eddie just said, so this will be a challenge. But ministers, plural, and members, first of all, I just would like to thank you. I'd like to thank you very much for your trust and your investment in Westinghouse Canada and the eVinci technology. And so I think that's the most important comment that I can make is thank you. I would say that Westinghouse is honored to receive this investment support from the Strategic Innovation Fund. As Eddie mentioned, we're going to more than match the amount. So that's a significant investment in Canada. This money will be spent in Canada. It will be, we have partners who are in the audience who are helping us do this. And it will result in job growth, to be blunt. And that's a great thing for Canada and a great thing for our industry. And it's a great thing for Westinghouse. And I'm going to go off my script, but just to share with you, I joined Westinghouse a little less than 7 years ago. We had 0 employees in Canada. We made a decision we call it the WEC staff, the Westinghouse staff, the CEO and his direct reports, who made the decision that this was a strategically important market for us. And so we hired Eddie to help guide us into how we turn this into a major market for Westinghouse and to make it one of our pillars of our company. And I think we're well on our way to doing that with over 200 employees now, and with the job growth that we're committing to in this award, and our other growth opportunities, let's say, be they acquisitive or through organic efforts. So Canada is an extremely important market. Again, going off script, because this is about eVinci, but you may not realize it, but the most advanced reactor in the world today is the AP1000. It's 1,100 megawatts, large reactor, still very viable technology for large reactors in many, many countries where governments are truly committed to decarbonization. You may not know, but many components of the AP1000 are manufactured in Canada. So every time we sell, you read about us getting an award in Poland for 6 units, that's jobs in Canada. You read that we're bidding for a job in Czech Republic, that's jobs in Canada. So some nice connectivity already between the US and Canada on the AP1000, and the eVinci will only increase that. So that's my off script. Another comment I'd like to make is there are lots of people developing small modular reactors. And a lot of them are startup companies with very bright people with great ideas. And they have a little bit of seed money, and they have a piece of paper with a sketch. We've been around, as the minister mentioned, for more than 70 years, designing reactors of all sizes, large, SMR, micro, et cetera. So I think that gives us a little leg up. We're not starting with a concept. We're starting with something that was proven at the U.S. Department of Energy's Los Alamos National Laboratory that we've licensed. And we have spent a lot of money testing various components, including our electrical demonstration unit. And so, we have a very aggressive schedule for commercialization, and it's commercialization #1 in Canada, and that's 2027. And we're committed to that schedule, and quite frankly, this award helps us get there. So thank you again for that. So I think Eddie talked a little bit about the technology. One of the things that he didn't mention, I like to mention, we like to call this a nuclear battery, because if you look at the eVinci technology, it only has a couple moving parts. It literally sits there by itself, generating the heat, generating electricity, and cooling itself off, all by itself. It's literally like a battery, only unlike a battery in any other device you can think of, my cell phone, which lasts about 12 hours, it doesn't run out. It lasts 24/7 for at least 8 years, and we're working to try to get to 10 years. And then you simply just replace the unit. That's a game changer. And I use that word way too much when I talk about eVinci, but it's true. It is a game changer technology. And it requires no maintenance during that period, no nothing. It literally could be operated remotely if a regulator would allow that. We're not advocating that at this point, but it could be. So I guess the final comments I'd like to make, 3 important items that help tell the story of the eVinci technology. First, I think it's critically important that Canada has embarked on an ambitious climate change program with significant reductions in carbon. That's key. That's #1. And if you look at other countries that are committed to new nuclear, they've made the same decision. And you don't get there without nuclear. So this is what we designed eVinci for, replacing some of the dirtiest, most carbon-intensive sources of electricity with clean, reliable, and affordable power. And so we intend to be an important contributor to the Government of Canada's net zero emissions efforts. So that's point #1. Second, we see this award and our continuing growth and presence of Westinghouse in Canada as a demonstration of kind of the cross-border cooperation that the minister mentioned in his remarks. Just another example of it, similar to our AP1000 efforts. And I would point out that our owner happens to be Brookfield, based here in Canada. I can't avoid saying that, so that's another positive development. And then I think third, we have like I mentioned before, we have a very aggressive schedule to commercialize this technology. In the nuclear industry, 2027 is tomorrow. I mean, a lot of you, I see heads shaking. Those of us who have been in this industry for a while realize how slowly the industry normally moves. But that shows our commitment to it, and this award is critical to get to that schedule. And so we are extremely thankful for this award because it will help us get to 2027 deployment in Canada. We're still trying to get a deployment project in the US, but it will not beat you, I promise. First one will be in Canada. So with that, Minister, I would just like to say that you can rest assured that Westinghouse will deliver on your hopes and our hopes and expectations for this project. Our investment will more than exceed your investment, and this will be good for Westinghouse, it'll be good for Westinghouse Canada, it'll be good for Canada. So with that, thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Bonjour, Ministre Champagne. Bonjour, Ministre Gould. Bonjour, Mesdames et Messieurs. Je suis très heureuse de vous accueillir ici à Burlington. Aujourd'hui, nous avons une annonce importante. Good morning, Minister, and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for making the trip to Burlington, which is coincidentally my hometown, for this important announcement. Much has been said already about the eVinci micro-reactor and its potential as a game changer in Canada's efforts to reverse the already devastating impact of climate change. All with the aim of becoming a truly decarbonized, non-emitting society by 2050. I can tell you the younger generation in Canada avidly and relentlessly supports this goal, this vision of net zero by 2050, as well as significant cut in emissions by 2030. I wholeheartedly support this transition to a low-carbon economy. That is why I work at Westinghouse. That is why I work in Canada's nuclear industry. That is why I am inspired and motivated by the innovative technologies coming out of this sector that help us achieve this goal. That is why I am excited about the potential of the eVinci micro-reactor, for all the reasons that Eddie and David mentioned, and more. Like many of you, I hope to be around in 2050 to witness our arrival at net zero. I will also, hopefully, be still working by then. And I, and the people in my generation, want to contribute. We want to make a difference. Our generation's children and grandchildren will be living with the results of our actions. Minister Champagne, Minister Gould, your presence here today gives me a lot of hope that we will see the Government of Canada continue to invest in the low-carbon solutions of the nuclear sector and its enabling technologies. With the Government of Canada's support and with the STEM capabilities, enthusiasm, and commitment of my generation, we will get to our goal. Of that, I am sure. Avec le soutien du gouvernement du Canada et avec les capacités techniques, l'enthousiasme et l'engagement de ma génération, nous atteindrons notre objectif. De cela, j'en suis sûre. Merci pour cet investissement et merci de votre présence aujourd'hui chez nous, chez Westinghouse Canada. Thank you for this investment. Thank you for believing in us, and thank you for your confidence that nuclear is in fact part of the solution. With that, I would like to turn it over to Michael Valor, Westinghouse's Senior Director of Advanced Reactor Commercialization. Thank you very much.
So thank you, everyone, and it's truly an honor to be here. I'll talk just a little bit about the technology, its potential applications, as well as what we will be executing with Westinghouse Canada, as well as our Canadian partners under this SIF program. eVinci, again, we've said it, it is a revolutionary technology, and we truly believe that. It is capable of generating over 5 megawatts of electricity, which could power as many as 4,000 homes. We can also capture the heat from the power conversion system to support district heating applications and other low-temperature industrial processes in tandem with that 5 megawatts of electric. This is an extremely versatile machine, though. We can also operate it in a heat-only mode, creating temperatures greater than 750 degrees Celsius, which really supports decarbonization of high-temperature industrial processes that right now are completely reliant on natural gas, coal, oil, or other fossil-emitting fuels. That high-temperature output also supports very efficient, clean generation of hydrogen. So we're really excited about the potential of this technology, not just to put electricity into remote areas and promote economic development through that electricity, but also what it can do purely from a heat perspective, which is one of the most difficult areas of an economy to decarbonize. The design itself is extremely safe. As we all believe, the nuclear fleets in the United States and Canada are extremely safe. They have an amazing operational history. But this technology even builds upon those existing safe technologies by utilizing what could be the safest nuclear fuel that's ever been developed and is licensable at this time, called TRISO fuel. On top of that, Westinghouse has developed 2 completely independent control systems that will ensure that we can keep this reactor controlled at all times. And in addition to that, we have a passive cooling system that even if other systems would fail, it will keep this technology in its safe operating temperature. Foundational to the design, though, is our heat pipe technology, which Westinghouse has been working to commercialize and develop now for multiple years. These heat pipes really enable this technology to be extremely small and to be as versatile as we've all explained today. Heat pipes are able to completely replace what is normally a high-pressure reactor coolant system of forced flow of water or gas. Our heat pipes will be continually pulling heat from the core 24/7 for safe power operation without any mechanical moving parts. As has been mentioned, during normal full power operation, our entire eVinci system literally only has one mechanical moving part, the shaft for the power conversion system. And that really, it's not just extremely safe in its design and operation, but that also pretends the ability to have what could be one of the most reliable energy development systems that has been developed to date. So, what could we potentially do with this? Certainly decarbonizing remote and industrial sites, But the potential applications for heating and combined heat and power, we really see this could revolutionize industry. It could also even help to support decentralizing industry that has tend to aggregate in areas of low-cost natural gas. So we're extremely excited about this. And through the SIF award, we'll be working with our partners to develop key aspects of the technology, as well as how we will deploy this technology successfully in Canada. One of our key activities will be supporting the vendor design review with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, which will ensure that this technology meets all the expectations of the independent nuclear safety regulator in Canada. We will also be developing the microgrid technology that will support the infrastructure, the power infrastructure around eVinci, and actually enable it to pair seamlessly with renewables. We do not see this as a competitive technology to renewables. We actually see eVinci as being able to enable further deployment of renewables into areas that are challenged through not having continuous wind or not having continuous sun, like many of the remote areas in Canada today. We'll also be working on our facility design to ensure that we can bring this technology to all of the remote areas, that it can be installed successfully in areas that have difficult construction windows and construction weather seasons. And we're also going to be working to ensure that we can deliver upon all of the promise that this technology will be completely safe from an environmental perspective. We will keep this technology above ground such that it is not impacting soil or permafrost. And we'll also then develop under the SIF program the means and methods of transporting the eVinci to and from these sites, which solves one of the key concerns in Canada around spent nuclear fuel being stored at operating sites. We will bring the eVinci to the site. It will operate for 8 or more years. When the fuel is spent, we will return the eVinci back to a safe licensed facility for defueling and fuel storage. All of those programs have been enabled by this award, which is why we're so grateful to be here today and so excited, quite frankly, to be here today. But that's all that I have, and it's a pleasure to introduce Member of Parliament Pam Damoff. Thank you.
Last, I know you've been very patient as you've been here. I am so proud to represent Oakville North, Burlington, and to have Westinghouse Canada located in my riding, and to be here for this announcement today. It is just, I just can't put into words how proud I am to be here, and the work that you're doing here at Westinghouse. Peter and Eddie, as we were touring around, my dad worked in manufacturing all his life, from a 16-year-old working on the factory floor in London, Ontario, to retiring as vice president at Canadian Curtiss-Wright. And I can recall my dad saying that young guys would come in, and girls, mostly it was guys back then, and they would say, well, it looks good on paper. And my dad would say, yeah, it might look good on paper, but it may not work in the real world. And hearing what you're doing here, where you have your staff, your incredible engineers all working here who are not only doing it on the computer screen, but also doing the testing to make sure it works in the real world, I have every confidence in the future of this company and where you're going. It really is tremendous. So thank you for the vision and the leadership, and to see the talent pool here, the young talent. We were talking about the average age is probably 25, but to know that the future is here at Westinghouse Canada in Burlington. Minister Champagne, you are such a tremendous champion for nuclear energy. I know you and I have spoken about it. After I had the privilege of touring Bruce Power this summer, we had a conversation about the key role that nuclear will play in our future of green energy. And we're so fortunate in Canada to be a leader in nuclear energy and nuclear safety, and have been for many, many decades. We won't reach our net zero emission targets without nuclear. And when you were talking about remote communities, I had the privilege of visiting Fort Severn many years ago when I was on Oakville Council, who were reliant on diesel, and to think of the possibilities that this could present for that community, who actually lost their school because of a diesel spill. So the kids were in portables because the diesel had spilled and the ground was contaminated. So to think of the transformational change that this could make. So, I mean, this investment today is part of our commitment to a greener future. And I noticed in the briefing note these were called very small modular reactors, which I thought was so a VSMR. But this is such an exciting announcement, and kudos to everyone here, and to see all of the leaders of nuclear energy, nuclear technology in Canada here today. It speaks to how important this investment is to our country. So thank you so much, Karina and Adam and Anita, who's not with us. It's wonderful. Team Halton is working all the time for this community. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And I believe that we're turning it to questions, if there are any. Is that correct? Okay. Yep. I'll turn it over to you.
So, and now we'll go to the media line. Operator, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, merci. You may press star 1 if you have a question. Vous pouvez appuyer sur étoile 1 si vous avez une question. We have a question on the phone from Mia Rabson, the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good morning.
Minister Champagne.
Good morning.
I have a question for you that is not actually related to nuclear reactors, but I'm wondering if you could give some information about your calls with the WHO and with Medicago about this vaccine, and if Canada has any concerns that we've invested in a vaccine that we can't now maybe not be able to donate to the World Health Organization.
Well, thank you for being with us this morning. It's a pleasure. Listen, I've been in discussion with the CEO of Medicago, as you would expect, for a number of months throughout the process. We've invested in Medicago, and we will continue to work with them. Obviously, they've been approved by Health Canada, and we're going to be continuing to work with them. You know, when the pandemic was declared by the World Health Organization, if my memory serves me well, was in March 11, 2020. What we made sure is that we would invest in a range of technologies and in a range of companies that can make sure that we would be more resilient for whatever may come next. You know, our commitment to Canadians was to ensure their health and safety for decades to come, and we've been successful in attracting in Canada a number of companies, and we've also invested in homegrown companies, including Medicago. So we'll continue to work with them because that technology is one of the technology that we'd want to see in Canada to be in a good position to protect the health and safety of Canadians, whatever may come next. We didn't choose the time of this pandemic. We're not going to choose the time of the next one, but what we have chosen as Canadians and with my colleagues is to be better prepared, whatever may come next.
Mia, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, if you could maybe also comment on the status of the investments we've made in biomanufacturing, particularly the Novavax one through the NRC in Montreal and Medicago. But I'm also curious if you have any concerns that the World Health Organization would reject a vaccine not because it's not effective, but because the company that makes it has a shareholder that's a tobacco company.
So let me comment on Novavax, and I see everyone here is looking at me, eager to talk about nuclear, but I see the eyes looking at me now. But I'll mention something on Novavax. As you know, we were one of the things that we tried to do as government was not only to invest in the private sector to make sure that we would ensure resiliency. You know, one of the things that when I became industry minister was to onshore. We saw that global supply chain were becoming more regional. We wanted as well to make sure that were putting more emphasis on resiliency than efficiency. And it's true in many supply chains, certainly in biomanufacturing. When it comes to the NRC facility, I'm pretty proud because not only now we have a number of private companies, but we as Canadians own a lab and a facility that would be able to do the vaccine from the beginning to the fill and finish, which was the capacity we were not having when the COVID started. So now Canadians are endowed with a public facility with whom we're partnering for the first time with Novavax. But as you know, we have two lines. We could partner with, in the future with another manufacturer. But I would say what we've done with Novavax is going on track. And this is improving, I would say, the resiliency of Canadians when it comes to pandemic. For your second question, I would only say that we will be continuing to work with Medicago and my colleague, Minister Duclos, because like I said, what ensures the best resiliency And to be in the best position is to have investment in the families of vaccine. You know, mRNA is one. What Medicago is doing is plant protein, and that is very important. And we're going to continue to work with the company and making sure that Canadians, whatever may come next, would have the domestic capacity to ensure the health and safety of citizens.
Operator?
Thank you, merci. The next question is from Aidan Shamandi from iPolitics. Please go ahead.
Hey, can everyone hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. So, Minister Champagne, this one is for you. It's on the CP rail strike. I know you put out a statement yesterday, but I am wondering if you could comment on Premier Moe's calls for back-to-work legislation. I'm wondering, is the government open at all to using back-to-work legislation should the strike go forward?
Well, we are obviously always concerned when there could be disruptions to supply chain. We've come to a moment where we've seen disruption in supply chain in different ways. Initially, we've seen microchip and the impact on the auto sector. We had seen the vaccines issue, and that's why when I became minister, I made sure that we would onshore as much of the supply when it makes sense for Canadians to be able to manufacture. So obviously, the possibility of a strike at CP would be of concern. And certainly we call upon both the union and management to sit together and to come to a negotiated agreement. I think we are at a critical time as we are recovering from the pandemic and what we're seeing globally. So obviously we would be, we certainly hope that both parties would come to the negotiating table and reach an agreement.
So is the government ruling out back-to-work legislation, or is that option still on the table?
Well, like I said, you know, as Minister of Industry, but I think as all Canadians, because, you know, everyone has been looking, and we understand in a country like Canada, logistics is everything to make sure that we can move goods. We've seen with the tragic event and the humanitarian crisis we're seeing in Europe, in Eastern Europe and in Ukraine, whether it's with regard to wheat and with regard to other commodities. Certainly, we want Canada to be able to be playing a role, not only to support the humanitarian effort, but also to make sure we could be a global supplier of a number of commodities which would be needed, and logistics is key. So again, my call would be for the union and management to sit down at the table to come to a negotiated agreement. It's in the best interest of both parties. It's in the best interest of Canada. And I think I'm sure Canadians would say that would be something that they'd be looking for in this very challenging time in the world that we're seeing now.
Operator?
Thank you. As a reminder, you may press star 1 if you have a question. Vous pouvez appuyer sur étoile 1 si vous avez une question. The next question is from Murad Hamadi from The Logic. Please go ahead.
Hello, Minister.
How are you doing, sir?
Question.
I'm sure you're interested about SMR and nuclear.
Well, I actually have a question for you about emissions reductions. So every time you make one of these announcements, you talk about, you know, the emissions reduction potential. And I'm wondering whether in this instance and in all the SIP projects that are NZA related or clean tech related, are you measuring Scope 3 emissions? Are you counting those towards Canada's emission reduction target? What is the measurement system you're using?
Well, thank you. That's a very good question. I mean, as you know, we have a number of tools in a toolbox to make sure that we would meet the requirement, and my role is to build Canada to succeed in the economy of the 21st century. And we've often been talking about the green industrial transformation that we're seeing in a number of sectors. You know, we started with aerospace. You've seen a number of announcements last week. When it came to the battery ecosystem, you saw an announcement yesterday in Alliston, not too far from here, where Honda has decided to invest more than $1 billion to produce a hybrid vehicle leading up to electric vehicles. So what we're seeing this morning, to me, is in the concept and the philosophy of having a greener future. You know, we're talking about the safe and responsible development of SMR. We know that as we want to become a destination of choice for investment For example, I was talking to colleagues this morning, when we're talking about the battery ecosystem and our critical minerals, we know that these minerals are often in remote location in Canada. And if you think about greening the supply chain, the vision we have, and I think the vision you talk with the OEMs and what customers wanting, is not only an electric car, but a green car. And if you think just in that industry and the potential, and we have colleagues here from Saskatchewan, you're seeing that these SMR, these small modular reactor or very small modular reactor, can play a key role, and you heard that from the CEO of Westinghouse and colleagues from the United States. They are transportable, and they certainly will be able to provide a cleaner source of energy and move some of the communities from diesel. So yes, this has an impact on greenhouse gas emission, and it's the type of investment, because let's go back to the numbers. We're investing $27 million. The company is going to invest close to $57 million, but we're also having $60 million of research and development. So we're building the whole ecosystem. That's the way to make sure that we will have the technology that can reduce greenhouse gas emission.
Murad, do you have a follow-up?
So you mentioned the Honda announcement yesterday. Between October 2020 and January 2021, Ford, Stellantis, and GM all announced EV project in Canada. Of those three, you've only managed to sign a contribution agreement with one of those plants, that's Ford. The other two, Stellantis and GM, you haven't done. You're now announcing more auto investment. Are you concerned that you're not actually managing to complete contribution agreements, despite the fact that you continue to make announcements of projects?
No, I'm not. I'm not, because it's the time to seize the moment. The decisions are being made now that will impact the future for the next 20, 30 years. If you're looking at the big investment, whether it's in the battery ecosystem, you saw when we had the investment on PCAM and CAM, the cathode active material and the precursor, when you have BASF, which has the choice to go in pretty much anywhere in the world, we were competing with a number of U.S. states, and we won. When we had GM POSCO make a similar decision, this is going to be critical because we're inserting ourselves within the global supply chain for the vehicle of the 21st century and being part of the battery ecosystem. The same thing when you see yesterday with Honda. Basically, by retooling the facility, you're ensuring Canada's position as the second jurisdiction in North America with respect to the production of vehicle. You're basically crystallizing that position. So for me, trust me that I'll do everything that I can to make sure that these companies announce as quickly as possible their investment in Canada, because that's the best way to secure our position, not only for today, but for generations to come, and secure the jobs that come with that. Because the moment they announce, you crystallize their intention to invest. And I would say, if you look at the return on investment, yesterday we're investing, something around $131 million out of memory, and the company is putting more than $1 billion. That's a pretty good return on investments to me.
So this marks the end of the Q&A and the end of the announcement. Thanks, everybody.
Merci tout le monde. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us here at Westinghouse today.